Namaskaram. Today let us have the discussion about the Uniform Civil Code or the UCC. Right. So this Uniform Civil Code is all about implementing the directive principles of state policy according to the Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, which has been enshrined by our forefathers in the Constituent Assembly. Right. So, what is this directive principles of state policy? Articles 36 to 51, Part 4 of the Indian Constitution, it deals with the directive principles of the state policy. Right. So, simply as the name itself is self-explanatory. So, it is the directions given by the Indian Constitution to the state how it has to function and what kind of policies are to be formulated for the welfare of the citizens of this country. Okay, this is the primary purpose of the directive principles of the state policy. As ours is a constitutional democracy and our country follows the constitutional supremacy, it is high time, as already it has been more than 75 years. We have got our independence, and soon we are going to celebrate our 74th Republic Day. So it is high time for us to implement this Uniform Civil Code, which has been enshrined in the Constitution long back. Right. So, what is this Uniform Civil Code? Why we are discussing about it now? So, it simply speaks as there are many personal laws to the citizens of this country. Some of them were, for example, Hindus were, Hindu personal laws were amended long back, even during the, at the commencement of the Constitution itself, in the form of Hindu Marriage Act, Hindu Succession Act, Hindu Transfer of Property Act, all of these kinds of, in this matter only, especially the marriage, divorce, property succession, how they are, how the inheritance has to be there. All of these issues will be discussed in the Uniform Civil Code. As some of the other sections in the society, they are not following the they are following their own personal laws, right? Whereas in the case of the Hindu personal, whereas in the case of the the popular majority of this country, that is the Hindu community, they are abiding by the rules of the country, which has been enacted by the parliament, right? So it is high time the second largest majority also accepts the Uniform Civil Code. Okay, before implementing that kind of Uniform Civil Code, we need to have discussions which are approved by the democratic societies, which any kind of modern democratic society will be expected to enact such kind of provisions. Okay, keeping this thing in mind, we, as our country wanted to progress in all the, by including all the people. Okay, one should not be excluded in this process of development. Okay, it is high time, we abolish the bigamy, like like it has been implemented in the case of the Hindu community. So we need to abolish the polygamy, that is which is existing in some communities in India. So, and it not only that polygamy issue, we also need to discuss the issues of divorce. Okay, how they are to be settled, and all these kinds of progressive laws which are much more needed for the citizens of this country. Okay, so large section, second largest majority is not supposed to be excluded in this process. We are to include these people in the process of our decision making, and other section of the women in the second largest majority community are supposed to be included. Okay, if at all some people say that it violates the diversity of our country, it threatens our secularism. Secularism means, our Indian version of secularism, it speaks of the equal treatment to all the citizens in this country equal treatment to all the religions, right? Whereas in the case of the Western countries, state and the religion are entirely separated. Whereas in the case of India, one section of the society is being controlled by the constitution and the parliament, and other sections are being given the freedom of exercising their religion. So we need to stop these kind of discriminating treatment. So it is high time we should be implementing all these kinds of provisions which are expected in a modern democratic, and it is also much more required for the citizens. It is also a fundamental duty, right, to develop the scientific temper. So, as a rationalistic individuals, we need to adopt the modern practices which will take us in the progressive path, right? Not only that, we also need to increase the age of agreeing marriage. For example, in the Muslim community, they can get married at the age of 15 years, right? So, and there are no proper security provisions for the marriages in their communities. Before, if the person changes his mind, automatically he may divorce her by settling a meager amount of alimony. Okay, this is the without attaining the age of without even getting the right to vote. At that kind of the girl child will not be having the maturity to understand the issues of the marriage. Okay, this is the problem, and we need to address that with immediate effect. Okay, so this is one thing we have to keep it in mind. Okay, then after that, what else is required? So why it is required, in order to avoid the kind of demographic changes, we need to follow that. Okay, one is not expect, we should not be encouraging the law must be equal for all the citizens. Okay, it should not be violating the rule of law. That, in the case of the tribal communities in our country, we may think that by involving all the stakeholders, and without changing the essential character and the culture of the tribal communities in our country, we need to frame the suitable laws, and we need to enact this uniform civil code by following the democratic methods on the um, by showing us, taking us in the path of progress, which is much more desirable, right? So let us hope the governments will soon enact these policies. Okay, and let us hope so. Okay, thank you. Jai Shri Ram.